Recording is on.
Good morning, good afternoon, good night. I don't know. Hoping you are doing well. I would like to start this paper on a containment story with some images. My first pictures outside after 2 months and a half of quite strict and hard confinement. I'm going to share the screen in order to share my pictures and the slides with you. I'll come back at the end of the presentation. See you right now. It was a cloudy afternoon. I climbed a little hill in the outskirts of the city, and I look at the sea. I thought that I was at the top of the world, and it's after a while I realized that the object of my study was there between me and the sea, in front of me, in midst of the city, until 2003. Near the Barcelona's football club stadium, next to the Barcelona School of Industrial Engineering, and it was the containment building of a nuclear experimental reactor. In this paper, I will try to think about the politics of containment through the scope of the studies of the politics of invisibility, and Olga Kuchinskaya underline how practices of producing representation have limited public visibility of Chernobyl radiation and health effects. Making something visible is not a one-way process. Imperceptible phenomena can also be made publicly invisible. And this production of invisibility is both work and a consequence of a particular structural condition or conditions. My point here is to stress that the production of invisibility has not just to do with imperceptible things, not just with human-induced radiation or chemical toxicants, not just with microscopic beings, such as microbes and viruses, as made invisible in Wuhan, in Munich, in Barcelona during the last weeks. The production of invisibility of very perceptible things is also part of the politics of containing threats of many kinds: health, social, economic, political, gender threats. And in this paper, I deal with a very perceptible object, a concrete block of 16 per 16 per 9 meters, and it's this nuclear facility. My research responds to a simple question that I started asking to myself when I was in charge of the management of the heritage of the School of Industrial Engineering. And the question was, how come that I never saw it before? Was my myopia so terrible? Has blindness spread as a pandemic over the city, as in the book by José Saramago, Blindness? Bit by bit, I realized that nobody seemed to be aware of the existence of the nuclear building, nor the thousands of students and university staff, professors passing by it during the day. In yellow, the university facilities, schools, faculties, nor the tens of thousands of Barcelona Football Club supporters in many evenings. In red, the stadium and the metros to get to stadium, and I suppose nor the hundreds of sexual workers and clients at night. In fact, my experience around there as student and researcher during many years told me that this little translucent technology designed to contain other kind of threats, risks, was much more present in the campus than the big opaque nuclear building on the right. And in fact, at that time, the scientifically designed wall of the nuclear building was just this. At that time, just a wall to paint graffiti. How come that the containment building was there, so perceptible in the midst of the city? But there is a second question: how come that it became invisible? And let's get through the first question by zooming again, this time towards the very core of the reactor in 5 steps, very quick steps. First, zoom from the globe to the nation. The containment building landed in the city in the 50s as part of the diplomatic policies between the US and the Spanish dictatorship, the Atoms for Peace program. And in some years later, in 1962, the building was inaugurated and a priest baptized the newborn reactor, so that this machine, I quote, starts working with God's blessing, and he called it Argos in honor to the boat of searching for the golden fleece. And the press widely announced this radiant symbol of the technological modernization of the nation and the regime, and as a totally national atomic reactor with nationally produced materials and with no danger, of course, to the citizens of Barcelona. Second, zoom from the nation to the city. The containment building was one of the first foundation stones in the creation of the new area, of a new area in the city, the Diagonal University campus in the Franco Avenue. And according to the experts, every risky radiation was to be contained behind the walls of the nuclear building. So who cared about the location of the reactor? But if the decision on the location was not shaped by security requirements, scientific decisions, it was shaped by other much more peremptory facts. On the one hand, real estate business, land promotion, look at the photos. In fact, land speculation, a tradition with a long tradition in Barcelona. And on the other hand, the politics of containment, but not of containment, not for containing radiation, but for containing the rising student movement and the protests against the dictatorship, especially after 1957. Third, soon from the city to the building. Here, the geometric modernist buildings of the new school can be seen as a representation of the new period of economic liberalization, international agreements of the regime, especially after the stabilization plans during the 60s. And the nuclear building was shaped by the tensions between architects and engineers, and between also the aesthetics and technical requirements of security. The building then was made not just for containing radioactivity, but also for spreading a specific image of architecture, of science, of the city. And finally, from the building to the core, to the very core of the reactor. The reactor worked for training activities, above all during 13 years, but without a proper license and any risk coverage, and with an operation power that decreased from 10 kilowatts to 1 watt. No power for a bulb, professors came to say. But what's important here, I think, is to think about how much is the power of 1 watt. This watt had a key role in the production of the thousands and thousands of megawatts that nuclearized the Spanish landscapes during the dictatorship and the following decades, obviously. And in fact, The containment building was the training laboratory for the engineers who were to build and manage the Catalan nuclear power plants. In fact, the first one in Vandellós, the red one, was finished in 72 and closed in 89 after an accident, a serious incident, according to international codes, and the turbine area burned out and a fair amount of radioactivity leaked towards the air and the waters of the Mediterranean Sea. Barcelona is just 100 kilometers away from there, and more or less we were lucky this time. In this sense, the main risky legacy of the Barcelona facility was not the 4 kilograms of uranium inside the building, not the structural defects, no some radioactive leaks, not the irradiated materials. It might be the fact of being a central node of the networks of nuclear power in Catalonia, in huge terms. And this would bring us to the second part of the research, which is about to complete the biography of the building until its destruction. From making it to making it invisible. During 4 decades, the Spanish dictatorship left a huge and often toxic scientific and technological legacy, and in particular in the form of nuclear objects and landscapes, and protests against nuclear energy boomed in Barcelona after the death of the dictator. But there was never a protest in front of the building, not even a single mention against it. For example, when activists listed a nuclear facility, the reactor never appeared. Even when anti-nuclear activities were organized at the school, it never appeared. Containing the containment building, we could say, that is moving it from the public side, that is rhetorically moving nuclear physics out from what was supposed to be nuclear power. It seems to be processes closely related to the containment of the strong, in European standards, anti-nuclear resistance in Catalonia. Containing nuclear building to contain the anti-nuclear resistance. The story is much longer, and the building survived the peak of the anti-nuclear movement many years, and I would like to finish with just the last chapter. In 2002, it held another kind of training reactor, the nuclear power plant conceptual simulator. We can think about it as having a new dimension of containment and invisibility. Students could be trained not just to put a true reactor into operation, but also to learn the procedures to technically manage a nuclear accident with huge radioactive leaks. All this, obviously, in a very contained, aseptic, healthy atmosphere inside the containment building. 1 year later, the building was destroyed, and thus it was invisibilized forever. I would like to contain myself and refrain from talking longer. Thank you very much. I know we will have other chances to meet with you. Your comments and criticisms are warmly welcome. And thank you very much. Take care. Just to say goodbye, keep in touch, and take care and give care, and hoping to meet you very soon and to directly discuss all these matters of containment with you. Stay happy, and see you.
is on.